Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're diving deep today into all these sources about dietary myths and controversies. You've given us a lot to work with. It's amazing how much nutrition science has changed, even just in the last few years.
It really has. And you've picked some fascinating stuff, really, a mix of everything. Articles, research on fat, meat, veganism, even the keto diet. Seems like you're trying to make sense of all the different advice out there.
Exactly. I mean, it feels like every day there's a new headline, a new study, a new diet. It's a lot, and they all contradict each other. So today we're going to see if we can, make sense of it all. Maybe even challenge some of the things we think we know about food and health.
Sounds good to me. And hopefully, by the end of this, you'll feel a bit more confident about making your own choices about what you eat.
Okay, let's jump right in. One of the biggest controversies is dietary fat. The way we think about fat has changed so much. I mean, I remember growing up, everyone was terrified of saturated fat, like the worst thing you could eat.
Yeah, the low-fat everything, that was huge. But some of what you sent, it seems like that might not have been based on the best science.
Really?
Yeah. There's this book, The Big Fat Surprise by Nina Teicholz. She really goes into it, and she says that we kind of jumped the gun on demonizing saturated fat.
Interesting. So are you saying butter is back?
Well, maybe not that simple, but she found that even some cardiologists are starting to say, hey, maybe saturated fat isn't so bad. Some of them even recommend it as part of a healthy diet.
Wow. That's a huge change from what we used to hear. So what's going on? Why are some experts changing their minds about fat?
It seems like the newer research is showing that the connection between saturated fat and heart disease, maybe it's not as strong as we thought. Some studies, they haven't found a direct link.
Okay, that makes sense. But what about all those years we were told to avoid fat? I mean, we were counting fat grams using all those low-fat products.
Yeah, and that brings up another oversimplification, calories, the whole calories in, calories out idea.
Yeah, right. Like, just eat less, move more, and you'll lose weight.
Right, but it turns out it's way more complicated than that. It's not just about how many calories, it's about the type of calories. And hormones.
Hormones?
Yeah, hormones play a big role in how our bodies use energy, like insulin, how it regulates fat storage, things like that.
So are you saying that focusing on calories is, too simplistic?
It might be part of the picture, but it's not the whole story. We have to think about, the types of food we're eating and how they affect our hormones, not just how many calories they have.
Right, so fat might not be the villain we thought it was. And calories are more complicated than just a number. What about red meat? That's another food that has kind of a controversial reputation.
Yeah, red meat. It's interesting, right? Because it used to be seen as like the ultimate symbol of strength and good health. Now, so many people think it's like going to give you cancer or a heart attack.
Right, but some of the sources you gave me, they seem to challenge that idea.
They do. And they make an important point about the kind of studies that have linked red meat to those health problems. A lot of them are epidemiological studies, which basically they just show that two things happen at the same time, but they can't prove that one caused the other.
So just because people who eat more red meat also have higher rates of certain diseases, it doesn't necessarily mean the red meat is causing the disease.
Exactly. Correlation doesn't equal causation. And the gold standard for proving cause and effect is something called a randomized controlled trial. And when it comes to red meat, those trials haven't been as conclusive.
So maybe we've been too quick to judge red meat. I mean, there are cultures that have thrived on diets that are really high in meat.
Right, like the Messiah warriors. They were known for being incredibly strong and having amazing endurance, and they ate almost entirely meat, milk, and blood.
Wow, that's pretty hardcore. But it shows you that, different cultures have different ideas about what's healthy, and what works for one person might not work for another.
Speaking of different approaches to diet, what about veganism? That's become incredibly popular, and for good reason, I think.
Yeah, and your sources, they look at both sides, the ethics of it, and also some of the potential health challenges.
Right. I mean, I totally get the ethical reasons for choosing veganism, the impact of animal agriculture on the environment and animal welfare. Those are really important issues.
Definitely. But from a purely nutritional standpoint, veganism can be tricky. You really have to pay attention to make sure you're getting all the nutrients you need.
Yeah, I've heard that some people experience low energy or even develop deficiencies on a vegan diet.
It can happen, especially if it's not well planned. And there's also, a lot of misinformation out there. Like one source mentioned a vegan propaganda film that said eating one egg is like smoking 5 cigarettes.
Seriously. That seems a bit extreme. Yeah, it's a good example of how things can get distorted, and it highlights the importance of, thinking critically and not just believing everything you hear, whether it's about meat, veganism, or anything else.
So it's not about saying one diet is good and another is bad. It's about like finding what works for you and making sure you're getting the nutrients you need however you choose to eat.
Exactly. There's no one right answer when it comes to diet. What matters is finding an approach that's sustainable and healthy for you as an individual.
Okay, so we've talked about fat, red meat, veganism. We've seen how easy it is to oversimplify things and how what we think we know can change as new research emerges.
And we've only just scratched the surface. There's so much more to explore here.
I know, right? It's a lot to take in. Maybe we should take a breath and recap a little bit before we move on.
Sounds like a good plan. Let's take a moment to reflect on some of the key takeaways so far.
One thing that keeps coming up is the influence of like things other than just science. Like we talked about cultural ideas about food, but what about the food industry? What role do they play in all this?
Oh, yeah, that's a big one. And some of the sources you sent really get into that. They talk about how the food industry has a huge stake in, what we eat, what's considered healthy.
It's kind of scary, right? Like we trust organizations like the American Heart Association to tell us what's good for us. But some of these sources suggest that even they can be influenced by like industry funding.
That's right. One example that came up was the American Heart Association endorsing those sugary cereals, even though they're not exactly health food.
Yeah. I remember seeing that. Like, how can they put their stamp of approval on something that's basically candy?
It makes you wonder, is it really about health, or are there other factors at play?
Right. And it makes me think about the whole low-fat thing, too, like the government pushing low-fat diets. The sources I sent, they say that might have actually made things worse.
Yeah, it's kind of a paradox. They were trying to make us healthier, but it seems like focusing so much on reducing fat, well, it backfired.
Because they ended up replacing the fat with, like, sugar and all those processed ingredients.
Exactly. And those are even worse for you.
So it's not just about what we take out of our diets. It's also about, like, what we put in.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, the food industry is really good at marketing their products, making us think we're making healthy choices.
Oh, yeah. And there are some pretty shocking examples of that in your sources, like the sugar industry downplaying the risks of sugar while blaming everything on fat.
Wow, talk about sneaky.
And then there's all the stuff about exercise, like those claims about how you can just burn off the calories from unhealthy food.
Like if I go for a run, I can have that donut.
Right. It makes us feel better, but it's not really true. It's all part of this illusion that we have control when really we're being manipulated by marketing.
So it's tricky, right? Trying to figure out what's actually healthy with all these mixed messages coming at us. Speaking of diets, there's one that seems to be getting a lot of attention lately, keto.
Ah, yes, keto. It's definitely trendy right now.
What's the deal with keto? Why is it so popular all of a sudden?
Well, unlike a lot of diets that focus on like restricting calories, keto is about changing the way your body gets energy. Instead of using glucose from carbs, you drastically cut carbs and force your body to burn fat for fuel.
That sounds pretty intense. What are the supposed benefits of doing that?
Well, people claim all sorts of benefits. Weight loss, of course, but also better blood sugar control, less inflammation. Even some say it can help with neurological problems and things like depression.
Wow. That's a lot of promises. But is it safe? I mean, messing with your metabolism like that?
That's a good question. And it's important not to confuse it with ketoacidosis. That's a dangerous condition that can happen with diabetes. But nutritional ketosis, which is what the keto diet is about, it's generally considered safe for most people, as long as they do it right.
One thing that struck me about keto is how it really emphasizes cutting back on sugar. Like, one source even quoted a doctor who has a sign in his office that says, "Fruit is nature's candy."
Huh. That's a good one. It's easy to forget that, even fruit has sugar. And sugar is sugar, whether it comes from a donut or a banana.
Right. So keto is basically like going against a lot of what we've been told about healthy eating.
Yeah.
But if it's so great, why isn't everyone doing it? Why isn't it like the standard recommendation?
Well, there are a few reasons for that. One is that there haven't been a lot of big long-term studies on keto. Research is expensive, and it's hard to get funding for something that, goes against the mainstream.
Right. Like it's easier to get money to study something that everyone already agrees on.
Mm-hmm. Plus, there's always resistance to change. People get attached to their ideas, even scientists. It takes a lot to shift a paradigm.
Well, hopefully we're moving towards a more open-minded approach to nutrition, where we're willing to consider new ideas
Yeah.
and not just dismiss something because it challenges what we think we know.
I agree. And I think that's one of the biggest lessons here. We have to be critical thinkers, take responsibility for our own health, and not just blindly follow what we're told.
Absolutely. We can't just rely on experts or the media to tell us what to eat.
Yeah.
We have to do our own research and figure out what works best for us as individuals.
Right. And that means understanding, how to evaluate information, how to spot bias, how to recognize the limitations of different types of studies.
And maybe even more importantly, we have to learn to listen to our own bodies. It's a lot, isn't it? Trying to make sense of all this. There's so much information and it's constantly changing.
It really is. It can feel overwhelming, especially when you're, bombarded with all these different opinions and supposedly scientific studies.
Right? Like, who do you even believe?
That's why it's so important to be a critical thinker. You can't just accept everything you hear at face value.
So how do we do that? How do we become more discerning about all the information out there?
Well, I think a good place to start is with a healthy dose of skepticism. Don't just assume something is true because it, comes from a doctor or a scientist or a big organization. Always ask questions.
Like what kind of questions?
Well, for starters, who's funding this research? Do they have a vested interest in a particular outcome? What are their potential biases?
That's a good point. We talked earlier about the food industry and how they can influence research.
Exactly. So look for sources of information that are transparent and independent.
Okay. What else can we do?
Another really important thing is personal experimentation, because ultimately you are the expert on your own body.
What do I mean by that?
Pay attention to how different foods make you feel. Experiment with different ways of eating and see what works best for you. Don't get too caught up in, the rules and the dogma. Trust your intuition.
So it's not about following a specific diet. It's more about tuning into your body and figuring out what it needs.
Exactly. Notice how you feel after you eat certain foods. Do you have more energy? Do you feel sluggish? Do you get digestive issues? Your body is giving you clues all the time. You just have to learn to listen.
That makes sense. It's like becoming your own science experiment.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to make mistakes. It's a learning process.
So for someone who's just starting out and feeling a little lost, where would you recommend they begin?
Keep it simple. Focus on eating whole, unprocessed foods as much as possible.
That's good advice.
Yeah, cut back on the processed stuff, the sugary drinks, the packaged snacks. Stick to real food, and you'll be amazed at how much better you feel.
And what about working with a nutritionist or a dietitian? Is that a good idea?
Absolutely. If you can, finding a qualified healthcare professional who specializes in nutrition can be incredibly helpful. They can help you, create a personalized plan, address any specific concerns you have, and just provide support and guidance along the way.
Well, this has been a really eye-opening deep dive. I feel like I have a lot more to think about now. And hopefully our listeners do too.
I hope so too. And remember, it's a journey. Keep learning, keep experimenting, keep asking questions.
Great advice. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of nutrition. It's been fascinating. And for all of you listening, remember, your health is in your hands. Keep exploring and find what works best for you.